Happy Wednesday, everyone. You made it to the middle of the week. I did too. I don't know about you, Debbie, but I don't know. These days I'm having such a hard time of keeping track of what day of the week it is. I had to double check myself before as the background music was playing. But you're here. It's the another episode of the story I'm telling myself with our good friend Debbie Kevin is here to talk about got fraud. Debbie, please take a moment, tell everybody who you are, and I'm going to pop your web address in so that everybody knows where to find you.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, first of all, Rita, for having me here today. I'm so grateful. I love all of our conversations. I am, I'm first and foremost an educator. I love educating uh, women about how they can be more visible, and primarily through publishing and marketing their books so that they can really make a positive impact in the world, because I believe that women are here to make a difference. I have not always been a publisher. I started out as a CPA and moved my way through all kinds of left brain activities before landing on my true love, which is all things words.
Well, we are so glad that you agreed to come spend some time with us. So, sagelead.com is Debbie's business. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's not. I dropped the wrong one in. Here we go. Apologies. Let's see. Now I got it right.
Yeah.
DeborahKevin.com. Golly, sorry, Deborah. I guess when I pop that into my shortcut to my notepad, I got it wrong. DeborahKevin.com. She's going, who is Sage Lead? That was my last guess. Sharon is here with us. Sharon, thank you for being a loyal listener and participant in the show. If you are new to the story I'm telling myself, this is live for a reason because we want to hear from you. Drop your comments in, drop your questions in, engage with us in this conversation. Because here's the thing that I know to be true, and I know you agree with this too, Deborah, that everybody's had that moment of feeling like I'm going to get exposed for the fraud that I am. And you have the courage to share your story of that with us. So, kind of set us up, take us into the moment. Where are you? What's happening in your career? And tell us about the story of fraud that you were telling yourself.
There's so many layers to that question. And there have been many times in my life that I'm like, ooh, um, people are going to figure it out. When I was in corporate, I remember I lived this life of hustle, right? Just total, I've got to do it. I've got to do it well. I've got to do it better than maybe my peers, not in a way that, pushed them down, but really kind of made me stand out because I didn't have that confidence in myself. And I
Well,
remember,
and didn't you can just
yeah,
and a lot of people may be feeling this too. But you and I are similar, have had a similar amount of time walking upon this earth and entered our careers at similar times and stages. And I had this feeling of like, I'm going to prove every thought people have ever had about women in business wrong. Like I can't show any vulnerability because I am going to defy every limiting thought anybody might ever have about somebody. And just having spent a few times in conversation with you, Debbie, I feel like you're that same kind of strong woman.
absolutely. In fact, most of my career, in the careers that I've had, or the jobs that I've had within my career, I was the only woman in the room. And I didn't even understand what strength that brought. I
Mm.
was so in my masculine energy and doing the hustle and the proving. And there was a saying in my last corporate job: if you want it done, give it to Debbie because it'll be Debbie done, which meant it would be as close to perfection as possible. But the toll on me in achieving that level of perfectionism was really difficult, and it was really hard to, looking back on that, the physical toll and the emotional toll.
And the question I have for you about this, because I think this is so much of where a lot of us get stuck. So, Debbie Dunn, it was kind of a compliment. But did you feel like it was really valued at that company in the way that it should have been valued for everything that it required of you to give that level of effort?
No, in fact, when I left that company in 2010, I had been saying, I need more help, I need more support. And they replaced me with 5 people.
Wow. Okay, guys, 5 people. Like, this is the story of so many
Yeah.
high achiever, high perfection women that I know that burn out
Yeah.
and walk away. And so here you are. It takes you're doing the job of 5 people, and you still have this internal narrative that you're going to be discovered as a fraud. What do you think that was about, Debbie?
I think that a lot of that came from my childhood and the messages that I received in my childhood. Um, Growing up, it wasn't safe for me to be seen.
Mm,
And I turned down so many promotional opportunities because I didn't want to be seen. And that definitely completely related to this fraud. They're going to figure out that I really don't know anything. And what am
right.
I doing in this position? And I used to liken myself to the stealth bomber, which, flies beneath the radar, does incredibly important work, which maybe I should rethink that analogy, but that's where I was at the time. And it's like I want other people. I did a project, and I'll just share this story. A project that was my conception. I ran the project. It was held up by the Federal Regulatory Energy Commission as the gold standard of how to do this particular aspect of energy regulation, deregulation. And my boss got to go to Washington and accept the award.
That just kind of says it all. But part of what listeners need to understand is that back at that point in time, that and in certain business sectors especially, that sort of military style hierarchy
Yeah.
of the leader at the top of the organization gets the accolade of everything done beneath them, like somehow their brilliance as a leader is responsible for all the hard effort
Yes.
underneath. It was very standard, and it is why I am so passionate about teaching companies that really want to build sustainable um, legacy workplaces how to let go of that model. Because I mean, this is just the perfect example, right? Of
Yeah.
all the reasons that is so wrong. Like when you put a face, Debbie Kevin's face, to an experience like that, you're like, dang, that is so wrong on so many levels. But it was so accepted back then.
Yeah. And I didn't there was a little bit of resentment, for sure, because the resistance to that particular suggestion was that can't happen, it can't work. And they still so it's probably not the details aren't important, but they we had done this was back when energy was deregulated, and the
Mhm.
way that the auctions happened was they happened overnight. So we would work 24 hours a day, and we had 8 or 9 fax machines that the bids would come in on fax machines. And I was like, why can't we run this like an eBay auction? If there's auction software already out there, why can't we do that? And so I was very fortunate that a new CIO came into the business as I was promoting this, and she thought it was a great idea. And together we sort of brought this to fruition. At the same time, we had the backup of 15 fax machines, and we took a 24-hour process down to 4.
Wow. That's amazing. I want to walk back to something that you said. You said that a lot of your fraud ties back to early childhood and not being safe for you to be seen, and that you were passing over opportunities because of that. Um, if you're willing, and if you don't want to get into this, that's fine. But if you're willing to share, what raised your awareness? What enabled you to become aware of that pattern? And what did you do with that awareness?
Yeah, it's a great story. I will say that it was a pattern that repeated itself many times in my life. Thank you, Rhonda. I love you too. Um, and the breaking point for me was, I was married to a man who was abusive, and I was literally sitting on the floor of my bathroom behind 3 sets of locked doors on the phone to 911, and I could hear him throwing dishes and flipping furniture down beneath me, and I was terrified. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'm an intelligent woman, I'm educated, I'm highly thought of in my community. I've been hiding all of this. This has to change.
Mm.
And what happened was 8 years of being single mom, and really digging into those patterns that brought me to that point. And it was during
So,
that healing.
so at some level, it sounds like your fraud was was masked by your competence. Like what you were hiding was this inability to stand up for yourself or to set boundaries or hold boundaries in this other element of your life. And your competence at work was the armor in
Yes.
in this. Yeah, I think there's a lot more of us than just you that have fallen into a trap like that.
Yeah, I think that, I do believe that to be true. And I remember, going through some art therapy, and there was this really cool story of, at one point, it was a 12-week program, through this amazing organization called Hope Works of Howard County, which really specialized in helping, survivors of domestic abuse, come out on the other side. And we were probably midway through, and we walked in, and there was a, a table full of toys, Barbie dolls, Ken dolls, cars, and all sorts of toys. And the instructor said, grab a toy that most resembles where you are in your journey. And I grabbed a Shrek doll. And then we had to explain why that choice. And I said, in the movie Shrek, there's a conversation between Donkey, and Shrek, where the ogre, Shrek says, ogres are like onions. You've got to peel away each layer to get to the soft heart. And I thought, that's how people heal from trauma and perfectionism and all of those things. It's like layer by layer. And you can't rush through it. You've got to heal each layer. Otherwise, you're really
Yes.
not getting to that core of who you are and how you want to be in the world, and not approach it from a place of fear, like to
I
stand
want
fully in your power.
I want to move on in your story, but before we do that, I'm just going to interject a little bit about my own story of that, of telling myself that. I mean, I can distinctly remember these moments in my career of thinking to myself, at some point, some smarter, more capable person is going to reveal you for the fraud that you are. I mean, I can remember having and like you, for me, there was this earning piece. I grew up in West Virginia, and I knew, coming out of West Virginia into college, that I was going to be labeled the hillbilly, all of that thing. And that, carrying that with me from college into my career, feeling like I had to prove that I was something more than just a hillbilly, and that I, because of that and other things, um, just me alone was not sufficient. I had to earn something more than that, right? And it's that feeling that I always had to earn and prove that was underlying my sense of being a fraud,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And um and it wasn't until I got out of the corporate grind and started my own business and found space to do my own work on myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the space for that in trying to raise a family, be a good spouse, and be Wonder Woman at work, like you, Wonder Woman at work. There was no space to work on me whatsoever.
And isn't that the beautiful truth about having your own business is that it does give us that ability to, first of all, stand completely and fully in our own worthiness because we don't have to prove it to anyone. We just simply
Yes.
are worthy
Yes.
of love, acceptance, all of those things just because we are. And when we allow ourselves to truly step into our brilliance and work in our areas that light us up, but also allow us to illuminate paths for other people. There's it's a true it's a true testament to our inner hearts, really, is what I'm trying to say. Like really owning who we are and
Well, when you open a business, when you hang your shingle out there and you put your name out there in the world, you are taking a bet on yourself. Right? You are really taking a bet on you're making a huge bet, a huge play on yourself. And if you are doing that and you are sitting in this place with this internal narrative that says you're not really good enough for this, you're never going to make it. It is so hard to experience all the effort and the work and stuff that it takes. So um, we are conditioned by society
yeah,
to focus on external validation. And what I see in the business owners who really make it versus the ones that don't is whether or not they have really come to terms and understanding that intrinsic validation is where it's at versus always being in that comparator space and always waiting for somebody else to affirm from outside of themselves.
that is such a truth. And when we fill our own hearts and spirit with that validation, that self validation, it enables us to ride out those waves that inevitably
Yes.
come with running your own business. It's not about your worthiness, it's about, the opportunity to learn or to be challenged in a new way or to celebrate somebody else's success for themselves, not because of, anything to do with us. We just happen to be something that those gifts flow through to help elevate other people.
I love that's so beautifully said. That is so beautifully said. So let's look back into your story. So you have this moment in your personal life where you realize that that you need to live your into your bigger truth, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and so but you've been sitting with this story inside of your head that says you need to play it safe. You need to both overachieve, deliver beyond everything, but also not let the spotlight shine on you too much. And then you decide to write a book.
Right.
So tell us about navigating that and giving yourself permission to do that.
Um, it's such an interesting story because um, I have written several books, but the first one that I published under my own name, um, I found that I experienced a lot of what our authors experience at Highlander Press is like, I'm really out there. I'm really being seen. And it's this dose, I call it the dosey do of visibility, where here I am, now I'm gone. Here I am, now I'm gone. And don't pay too much attention to the magician behind the screen, which is what I am when I'm working with other authors. But stepping into that spotlight myself was exhilarating, exhausting. And had I not done that internal work, I would have been seeking that external validation for the wisdom that I shared in that book.
To me, as a fellow author, the first hurdle that I encountered was getting past the story inside of my head that says, you don't have anything to say that anybody wants to hear. Did you have those moments, and how did you get yourself through those?
I don't know that I necessarily had those because I'm pretty confident in my area of expertise. But I definitely, with our authors, that comes up all the time. And people, especially women, who are like, well, it's all been said before, or what do I have to add to the conversation? Or, fill in a myriad excuses, right? Which all come down to fear. And
Right.
here's what I say to that is, yes, it's probably been said before, and it may have been said by someone in your field, but it hasn't been said by you. And you have your own lived experience, your own, I say, perspectives through which you view the world and your work. And your experience is just as valid, and it's meant to be shared with exactly the people who are waiting to hear from you. Because
So did you really feel that in your soul when you were like, was that really the story you were telling yourself with your first book?
um I don't know that I'm just trying to think with so I write two different kinds of things. So my historical fiction, 100%. Is there a level of confidence with that? Probably not as much as on the book marketing side of things and the publishing side. I s- so that again, there's more vulnerability in the fiction side of me as opposed to the nonfiction, I would say
Gotcha.
for sure.
And so you have all this confidence about, this is a book that deserves to live in the world, but yet you're still feeling like, but you don't deserve to be in the spotlight with it. Is that what it was?
A little bit. So with this particular book, so I have a very large network, I would say, of people who are in some area of writing, publishing, authorship, and it's widespread. So everything from poetry through graduate school instructors, professors, um, people within my communities locally and across the globe, all of whom are in some form an author or in the publishing streamline. And so when I published my book, where I stepped out of my comfort zone is instead of tapping into people I knew would say, this is a great book, I really pushed myself outside my comfort zone and asked people in the broader network, people who hadn't worked directly with me or didn't know me as well, to read and give advanced blurb. And that was nerve-wracking because as soon
Mm.
as I sent those emails out and people had already said yes and they were looking forward to it, I felt sick to my stomach. Like, what if they actually see that this is not very good? What if this is
I
crap? You know?
Well, I remember in the middle of writing Show Up Positive, the first half of the book, which is the sort of the manifesto, the why do you show up positive and why does it matter in the world part of the book. I I was writing and I had these moments where I was thinking about authors that I really enjoy reading in the nonfiction space. And I was like, oh, this is feeling really good. Like this is one of those, kind of key ways of phrasing something that I think is just going to land. So I had these moments where I was feeling really good, but then you get a couple chapters later, and then all of a sudden you'd be like, I think this is all shite. I don't know if they're right. Like you're riding the roller coaster. And so many times I had already identified beta readers. And like you, I had a broad spectrum of different beta readers. And I wanted to send it to them for external validation. It's like when I was in the dip and I was having all of this fraud conversation in my head as the writer, I wanted to go outside and I kept saying, no, you don't need other voices in your head. Don't invite other voices in your head until you have put your full thinking on the page. And so at least as much as there was a part of me that wanted to go out there and seek the external validation, I had the wisdom to wait and really allow my voice for me to work through all of it myself before I sent it off to anybody else. And my questions were really basic. It was like, I mean, you know, would people want to read this? Who would want to read this? What would like? I'm going to my beta readers, and those are the questions I'm asking. I'm asking those bigger questions like that because I didn't really doubt my skill set. I'm a good communicator, and I've been given props for that my entire life. And I've written tons of training and delivered tons of training, and I sort of know how to build a pretty decent narrative, but so I had confidence in all of that, but it's sort of that thing of like, but if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears, that doesn't make a sound, right? Like I just
Yeah.
needed to know if this book was going to make a sound for anybody.
And I love that you gave yourself permission, even though it was challenging, to not go outside of yourself and get it all on the page first, because that took a lot of courage. And so leaning into that fear deserves a huge round of applause. So I hope that you will give that to yourself because it is scary and we can doubt ourselves all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that what happened was your book really did land with those who it was intended to land for and maybe made the impact that you had hoped that it would.
Yes, yes, I think so. I mean, I think Sharon would agree. Um, Sharon is one of the people that found my book early and has continued to find nuggets from it. She'll send me little notes and things like that.
Aw.
So we're getting to the end of our time together, and I guess as somebody who is not only navigated this question of fraud, but also in your role as a publisher, you coach and guide lots of authors through these same moments. What are 2 or 3 tips that you want to leave with listeners about one, how to recognize that story? Because you know what? It's so sneaky sometimes.
Yeah.
And 2, what do you do with it once you find it? How do you successfully navigate through?
Great questions. And so I would say to people how it shows up typically as especially for authors, the closer you get to publication, the more freakouts happen. And it's more like this comma needs to be here, or this, I don't think it's done yet. And so you've got this revision loop that's happening that is really about perfectionism and fear. And so I would say first, find yourself a trusted confidant who can see you and hold a mirror up to you and say, this is going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And have someone in your corner, whether it's another author or a coach or even your editor, right? Or your publisher, whomever that is, somebody who can say, I'm not going to blow smoke up your skirt. I'm really going to give you the honest truth. And I'm telling you, you're going to be okay. And it's a great book. So first,
So I think that's a great first tip. Like, because everybody has those people in your life. Listen to them.
yeah,
Stop letting your internal narrator tell you a story that discounts what they are saying to you. Trust them. If you've got the people that are telling you you've got lipstick on your teeth or you got spinach in your teeth or, those things, those are the people,
Yeah,
right? And trust them. So
the
one is
truth
trust
teller.
them. Okay, what's two?
The second is I like to have a little bit of fun with it. So I say, give that voice a name and then talk to that voice directly. I view mine as a little gremlin that sits on my shoulder. And when it gets really loud, I visualize this. It's not very kind, but it works for me. I pick the gremlin up off my shoulder and I put him, and for some reason it's him, inside a gerbil ball and say, I don't need you. And I kick the gerbil ball in my mind away.
I love that visual. That is really powerful. If you had a therapist, your therapist would be giving you the snaps for that one. So creating some distance,
Yeah.
recognizing that that voice is a part of you, but it is not a part of you that you have to carry around and listen to all the time.
Yeah, it's really your ego, right? Your ego is there to keep you safe, and it has a very important job, but it can also hold us back. And
Yeah.
so I always visualize, especially with authors, the closer you get to publication, it's like running a 10K and you're approaching the finish line. And the closer you get, the louder your ego starts screaming. And so sometimes I'll look at myself in the mirror and I'll talk directly to my ego as well and just say, I understand that you're trying to keep me safe, but I've got this and you can
Yes.
rest now.
So important. Hey, Anne's part of my team that's getting the podcast out on the podcast platforms. So glad you could join us today. Thanks for jumping in. But you guys, we're getting to the end of the time. So if you have questions for Deborah about this, jump in and give them now. Is there a third point that you want to share with everyone?
Yeah, I would say, find a community that is kind of going through the same thing that you're going through so that you can hold up mirrors for each other. You can hold hands when you need to. You can cry if you need to. And as a safe place where you're not competing with each other, but you're supporting and encouraging each other. The community is super important.
Naming your gremlin or your brain to help you stop the negative voices is a great tip. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. I've been reading slowly. No offense, Mo. I just been in between things. Mo Gadot, back around the pandemic, put out one of his more obscure books called "The Little Voice Inside of Your Head," and it's
Oh,
all about the science of understanding how the auditory part of our brain actually does light up. And that's the voice that you hear in your head, and being able to name and create some of that distance, right? But community, we have a practice community that I sponsor. Sharon is a regular part of it. There's a group of us that come together regularly on Mondays, right? On LinkedIn and Facebook. Every Monday from 12:30 to 1:15, and it is a listening and exploration practice community. It is exactly what you're talking about, Deborah. It is a space where it's called the Ledge, and it's about giving yourself permission and trust in yourself to step, and having other people to support around you that give you permission to step into that unknown place on the other side of the ledge. The ledge just represents that fear, that holding back. But sometimes it's not fear, sometimes it's ego
yeah.
holding us back. So but really being able to distance ourselves a little bit, name it, explore it in a very supportive place where we're not judging. We are just trying to understand ourselves better and trying to align our thinking and our mindset. So it is so important, whether that community is your girlfriends and a glass of wine, on a Saturday or whatever it might be. I think that you're absolutely right about a community is an important part, because if you are struggling with fraud, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, however you want to name it, I think what I would say is most important for you to take away from what Debbie shared with us today is there are deeper things, and not everybody has access to the mental health services that they need to be able to get therapy or those kinds of things. But you don't always have to have that. Start some mindset work. Start find a community of people that are talking about these things. Start exploring it there, and so that you can begin to understand that the biggest limiter for you in overcoming that is the call is coming from inside the house. Like, you got to do the work inside of you first.
Yes, that's beautiful. And when you have that community who can show that mirror to you when you're in fear or your ego's shouting, they can remind you of who you are. And that is priceless. That's
It is
priceless.
priceless. It is absolutely priceless. It's why Sharon and Gary and Gail and I, we're addicted to our Monday time on the ledge, because it is this space, exactly what Sharon is saying here, where, you know, we choose whatever the topic is going to be. Last week, our topic was just sort of fun. We all just needed to laugh, and there, you know, it was not purposeful. It was just community. It was just a moment of community and giving ourselves permission to be whatever we need to be in that moment.
Yes.
Is an important thing. So much of our lives, especially in the workplace, get regulated around some task or to do or outcome, and making sure that you are carving these spaces where you just get to be in community. It is a game changer. It is 100% a game changer.
I'm reminded of the fact that we're not human doings, that we're human beings. And it's beautiful that you have this space for people to be who they need to be in that moment.
Yes.
And support and encouragement. And kudos to you for creating that beautiful community.
Thank you. Well, we are open and welcome. Always love to have others gather and join with us. Well, we are coming to the end of our time. I can't believe this has been such a beautiful conversation. And thank you, Debbie, for being willing to have a moment of vulnerability with everyone, because not everybody feels safe and confident to talk about these things. Debbie has her own podcast. So if you go to DeborahKevin.com and then click on the podcast, Story Tell Her. So instead of Tell Her, it's Tell Her. And I have been a guest with Debbie on her podcast. She is telling female stories. And there are some just every episode is magnificent and celebrates another woman that deserves to be celebrated. So I highly encourage you that if you have not had an opportunity to find her on your podcast platform, go seek her and add Story Tell Her, right, with Deborah Kevin to your playlist, along with the story I'm telling myself. I think we're up to episodes 6 or 7 this week. So we are moving right along beyond these lives. Rhonda says, finding your community, a group you can trust, who will give honest advice when asked and who will support you, is so important. And we know this as women. Yeah. We know this as people who are not in the majority. When you are not in the majority, you end up finding and building strong communities. And it really is that life-saving force that you need, as long as that community is really about supporting one another and not just a place where people bring all their complaints.
Yes.
Because I've seen some communities go the wrong way, where it just becomes a big bitch fest. I'm just going to say it because I don't know a better word for it. And if that's the community you're in, that's the wrong community. That one's not going to help you. That's just going to fuel that internal narrative that you don't want. Find a better community if that is your situation. All right, everyone. Thank you. Tomorrow, Kelly Blackman is with me at 1 p.m. And we're going to talk about, is DEI dead or better than ever. Look, DEI in the US is under fire, starting from the highest echelons of our nation's capital. And the question is this all doom and gloom, or is there a gift that we can resurrect out of this chaos? I love Kelly because he sees the gift and he's going to share it with all of us. You're going to want to be with us for this episode, and be sure to bring along a friend as well. Thank you, everyone who's with us in the comments: Rhonda, Sharon, Anne, who am I missing? Somebody else on LinkedIn. We're so happy to have you. Thanks for being with us. See you tomorrow at 1:00. And Debbie, you are a treasure. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I am so grateful for this platform to share and to spend more time with you, Rita. I really appreciate it.
I know we're such good fans of one another. Everybody have an awesome Wednesday. Bye.